Did you know that most things that look black are, in fact, not? I mean, let's take a look at this seemingly black cardboard. Looks pretty much black, doesn't it? As soon as I use a brighter than usual light source and shine on it, you can pretty quickly tell that this isn't a true black though. It kind of looks almost white under these circumstances. But things are looking very different when we bring in the Moser Endeavour Tourbillon Vantablack. Even with a light bright enough to make a black cardboard look white, this watch stays as dark as some of yours ex's hearts, because this style is made from one of the blackest materials known to us. And on a very quick note here, this one looks even more impressive in person, so in case you have the opportunity to go see a watch like this in person, if there is a Moser 80 somewhere close to you, I 100% recommend doing so. I was able to borrow this watch from Moser 1825 here in Stuttgart, Germany, as this is one of my absolute grails. I am very grateful that they made it possible for me to share this watch with all of you watching this. So a very big thank you to Moser 1825 in Stuttgart, Germany. I mean, from what we just saw, the color we describe as black is merely a very dark gray if we are being precise. So what is needed to achieve a true black? To answer that, we have to start with the counter question. How do we get the opposite of it, so a true white? The answer is simple, it's light itself. And yes, you probably guessed correctly. To get the perfect black, well, you need the complete opposite of it. You need the complete absence of light. Let's grab something we all know and most have, a blank piece of paper. I'm sure you can all confirm that a white piece of paper looks black in a very dark or pitch black room, right? So the white paper obviously isn't made from light, but simply very good at reflecting it, which makes it look very white. So that way we can come to the premise that in order for something to be truly black, it must not reflect any light whatsoever. But we could also see with the cardboard example that this isn't so easy as it may sound. With enough light, seemingly black surfaces turn gray in an instant. So how do we keep an object from reflecting light? Well, there are two possible answers to that question. The first possible answer would be a good old black hole we learned to love from movies like Interstellar, which, by the way, left me with an existential crisis after watching it. Black holes are, as far as we know, the only truly black thing in the entire universe. But how does it work? Let's start with something everyone knows and experiences: gravity. Luckily, we're not floating around like we would in space, but here on Earth we experience gravity that keeps us more or less stuck to the ground. At first, one could think that gravity only emanates from bigger bodies or masses like the sun or the Earth, but what if I told you that even a tiny thing such as a marble could potentially have the same force of gravity as the Earth? Because what actually matters is mass. Some might say, wait, though it's technically not correct, and not the size of an object. So let's say we would take the Earth and somehow squeeze it down to the size of a marble without taking away any of its mass, just like squishing together a sponge, for example. It would still hold the same gravity with its size of about 1.8 centimeter, for example. And so the force of gravity around the marble would be strong enough that even light wouldn't be able to escape it, which means that incoming light would be swallowed up from this black hole and never let back out again. That's how you would create a perfectly black object. And so a seemingly silly question from a couple of minutes ago starts to sound not so silly anymore. Did watchmaker Moser somehow fabricate a black hole on its style of the Endeavour Tourbillon Vantablack? Before we're going to answer that question, I quickly want to tell you that I have now revealed my watch roll collection over on jenni-l.shop. You can now check out all the different colors and sizes, so you know exactly which one is going to be your favorite. When I go live with the shop on the 21st of March, everything you need to know about the watch rolls is in the description box down below, so make sure to check it out after watching this video. Moser is a Swiss luxury watchmaker that is known for its daring, unusual and unique watches that will cost you a pretty penny. Their watches are independently made in-house, and I'm sure many of you know them for their crazy watches like the Flying Hours or the recently released Swiss Alp Final Upgrade that looks a lot like a smartwatch that many of you might know, but it's actually entirely mechanical. Or perhaps you do know them from their insane Vantablack line, like the one I have here with me today, the Endeavour Tourbillon Vantablack. Either way, this is more than just a regular video format. me, some of you might know that this one is one of my absolute grail watches, ideally in the moon phase configuration. So I would like you all to just sit back and relax and let me show you this absolutely incredible piece of art from Moser. It has a diameter of 42 millimeters with a lug to lug of 53 millimeters and measures 11.6 millimeter in thickness, and the price of $75,000 comes about the following three reasons. First, there's the fact that even though it might look like steel, the entire case is made from white gold. The bezel is beautifully polished and curved and connects to the equally elegant rest of the case. The flanks have this really nice and linear brushing, and what I really love are these hollowed out parts on the side that seem to almost flow to connect to the shape of the lugs. That way it looks very nice on the wrist, though I would say that it still looks a bit too big on my wrist personally. There is a white gold pin buckle clasp attached to a very soft black alligator strap that lets you fasten the watch around to your wrist. It's a real simple design. It doesn't take away from the showstopper that is the rest of the watch. The second reason for its price is the automatic movement Moser placed into this watch. It's the in-house developed and built HMC 804. It has a power reserve of about 72 hours with absolutely beautiful finishings and embellishments on every part. You have the stunning Genevan stripes, for example, the chamfered and polished edges, or the rose gold skeletonized rotor. But probably the most useless function or component, apart from the dial, but I'll get to that in a second, is the tourbillon. At 6 o'clock we can see it whirling away, making a full 360 every minute. It's the reason for doubling or sometimes even tripling the price of some luxury watches, even though it doesn't really serve a real purpose anymore. Initially, tourbillons were created to conquer the effects gravity had on the movement of pocket watches. As they were sitting in a man's pocket all day long, mostly at the same vertical position, gravity affected some parts more strongly than others, causing trouble in the accuracy over time department. Tourbillon solved the problem by evenly rotating the most delicate part of the watch to distribute the effect of gravity equally on all parts, which doesn't really make sense in today's wristwatches that you keep moving around all the time anyways. And so, last but not least, and point number 3 as to why this one is rather expensive, be still my beating heart, is the dial. Though Moser didn't create an actual black hole and placed it into this watch, well, duh. It is something similar. Vantablack is one of the blackest material known to mankind. It absorbs up to 99.965% of visible light, which means that only about 0.05% of the light is reflected back, which results in a surface no light is bright enough, so it appears entirely black. But how does it work? Well, the answer is in the name. Vanta is an acronym for Vertically Aligned Nanotube Array, which is surprisingly simple if you put it that way, which brings us to the answer of the question how exactly Moser managed to pull off such an intensely black dial without creating a black hole, dooming us all to the inevitable death therefore. When looked at under a very strong microscope, you can see that the seemingly flat black surface is actually made of nanotubes arranged vertically next to each other on the dial. Turns out that these tubes are perfect for almost completely swallowing light. When light hits the Vantablack surface, it falls into this field of tubes, and instead of simply reflecting the light back, the light reflects back and forth in between these tubes up until the point where only, well, 0.05% makes its way back out again. The rest is being basically ping-ponged within, making it impossible for the human eye to see. It all results in a surface that even when hit with extremely bright light or when looking at it through an ultra macro lens looks pitch black or like a black hole to us. And all of this creates this amazing watch that you can see here. I know at the end of the day it might just look like a regular black dial watch with a cool spinny thing at 6 o'clock to some people, and that's totally fine. But to me, this is pretty much the embodiment of what I really love about watches. It's art, it's technical, it has a story, it's absolutely romantic and utterly ostentatious. It's the intense contrast between outdated concept like the tourbillon and the hypermodern Vantablack coating on the dial, not only in a visual way, but also because gravity connects the entire theme of this watch on a philosophical level. Gravity created not only the tourbillon, but also black holes, basically. I might be reading way too much into this, but that's exactly why I love this so much. This is why I have so much respect for it. It's just the full circle to me. But yeah, I guess you get what I'm trying to say here. I'm now going to leave you for today and go back to staring at this watch for the remaining time that I have with it, and I don't know, perhaps watch Interstellar and have a good cry. As always, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!